Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to show you all and talk about the 10.2 Warlock PTR sims that I've run for Destruction, Demonology, and Affliction. We've got talent sims, single target sims, AoE is not done yet, but trinket sims, race sims, random other sims here and there. Most of the questions that you have should hopefully be answered outside of embellishments and AoE. Those will be done later on. They're not working from what I've heard and all that. Well, yeah, I'm not smart enough to write the APLs. I can just run sims, but a big shout out to everybody who can and who does that work. It's, well, awesome work. So, gonna look at AF, Demo, Destro. Anybody that wants weak orders or add-ons that use like typical plug and all that stuff. Twitch, Discord links down below if you want them, all for free for you guys. The 10.2 spreadsheet is indeed live also on Patreon if you want early access to that at the tier 3 Felguard rank or higher. These sims were actually in there a bit ago before this video came out. But yeah, if you want that or want to support on Patreon or anything in general, link up here as well as down below in the description. And yeah, let's get into it. So, getting into Demonology stuff here. Now, we have played Grand Warlock's Design, Immutable Hatred, or Reign of Tyranny, Immutable Hatred for basically all of PTR at this point in testing. You can tell the difference between playing Immutable Hatred and another portal. I mean, like the damage profiles with Grand Warlock's Immutable Hatred, which we can see right here. There are some peaks and valleys, like, you know, minor ones here with like basically Minute Tyrant, Grimoire Tyrant, without Grimoire, with Grimoire, all that. And then you have things like Reign of Tyranny and other portal, which have, well, you know, higher peaks, lower valleys, and the same profile we're trying to get away from. And we currently have on retail. Grand Warlock's Immutable Hatred simming the highest, followed by Reign of Tyranny by about behind by about 4k, give or take, but that may change a bit depending how things go with trinkets and everything, right? Just to show here, I also ran some sims looking at talent combinations, basically Umbral Blaze versus Imp Gang Boss and Felsunder versus Demonic Knowledge. To show the build we're looking at in game, let me change the demo here. The Grand Warlock's Design Immutable Hatred build was the highest. It's not playing Demonic Knowledge, it is indeed playing Umbral Blaze. No Knowledge, you're playing, yep, Hatred, Grand Warlocks, 2 Umbral Blaze, no Imp Gang Boss, no Knowledge, and 1 Felsunder. Now, I will say that Umbral Blaze looks to be the play either way, pretty much, but at the same time, like, there's not a whole lot of variance between these three, give or take. 144 DPS, it's a little bit, but like, there's a 70-ish DPS margin of error, and like, if you're a huge fan of Demonic Knowledge, you can probably play it. I wouldn't fault you for it, but honestly, like, it's been nerfed so much, our core gen's just so low, a 10% chance, not very high in the first place, amounts to only a few more hands, like, per sim cycle. I was against swapping it out initially as well, but the more I play with it, I really don't notice a difference. You got to be a little better micromanaging your like Doom brand stuff, but I mean, it's just the way that the class is built and stuff. But it seems fine. So 2 Umbral Blaze, 1 Felsunder for immediately is ahead of Imp Gang Boss Thunder, and 2 Umbral, 1 Demonic Knowledge. But you know, most are relatively close here, barring Imp Gang Boss and 1 Knowledge being behind by about 400 DPS. Now, I did also want to sim Clash Trinket. So I simmed the Clash Trinket here. Mine is 457 Smithic with a 447 Balefire branch. Now, Balefire next patch from her 18s, I think 18 or 19 keys is 470. Didn't up the eye level here, just want to sim what we had in the vendor. It is actually pretty close here. And for the most part, it should be the same whether you up the eye level or not. Maybe even favoring Reign a bit more. We'll look at that in a second here. But Grand Warlock's Design, Immutable Hatred, 147,783, but Reign not far behind at 147.1, only about a 0.5% difference, varying damage profiles, a minute versus a minute and a half. At the same time, I mean, your Tyrant being a minute and a half versus a minute means you have more time to accrue more trinket stacks for your Clash Trinket, which probably inflates us a bit more, but there's that. There are some fights this tier that have like damage amps, like Nora Root, Smolderon, some shields like on Tindraw, where you might want to have that Reign of Tyranny, like I guess like burst profile. To be fair, it doesn't really do much more damage than Grand Warlock does anyways, but it's still something. Being able to do a bit more damage with Tyrant and also have a bit more stacks with Clash Trinket could mean that in certain fights it's possibly worthwhile. But if you like Grand Warlocks a lot more, well, there you go. It's still better by 700-ish DPS and about 0.5%. Now, I ran a larger trinket sim here. This sim has Clash Trinket at 457, like mine, but I increased the eye level on all the trinkets here, Mirror, Baloros, Naimu Baloros, to Heroic, Raid level, or if it's a plus trinket, I increased it to 470, which is like, I think, plus 18 end of dungeon loot, I think, roughly, give or take. I did not sim Genosaur Blood or Sea Star, whatever it is from Throne of the Tide or Throne of the Tides Herbloom. They didn't seem very good when I ran quick sims. If it changes, I'll sim them again. But I mean, Trinket sims suck. I hate doing them. But yeah, so the highest from what I've seen in my sims, everybody else is Grand Warlock's Design, Immutable Hatred, Naimu, and Baloros. So to clarify, Naimu's Trinket is this. It is, you pop it, it gives you a damage. It does damage, about 500,000 per channel for me at least. And also gives you 3k mastery for 18 seconds. Now, the damage is increased against targets that are immobilized. The rare staff from the boss does do that. It does not work on bosses. Also, it's not. I didn't wear this in Sims, so it's not inflating the number by any means. Good solid effect. You pop it after your Tyrant because it's a channel effect. Baloros is this. It is an int trinket. You go into melee and pop it basically. It does damage around you, not to a target. So you have to be standing in melee or standing near your target to do damage. It slows you, but you can cast while moving. It also does damage to you. So let's say this is my target, I pop it, I'm running in, casting while moving, it goes off, big damage, it crit for 1,000,000, and I'm taking damage here. So if you want to play this trinket, it might end up being worthwhile. It is just pound for pound very strong. I assume most casters probably want it because our trinkets is here sort of what I've heard from most casters, but either way, it's a strong effect, but you take damage when you use it, have to be in melee, and you're slowed. It is an on-use trinket. These are technically both on-use, but I mean, it's really only one on-use trinket. You just pop this whenever. Popping this does incur a penalty on this one for 20 seconds, so you can't pop them both at the same time, but it doesn't really matter. It's a damage-based trinket. We'll see where it goes. If you don't want to play Baloros being the damage-based one, other options here are like Naimu, well, I guess Clash Trinket and Balefire. There's Naimu and Baloros here we talked about here, playing Reign of Tyranny. I simmed Mirror of the First, whatever it's called, from the dungeon, the Mega Dungeon in 10.1.5. Actually pretty good as well with Baloros. Clash Trinket, Balefire being here with Grand Warlock Design, and very little disparity here between Reign of Tyranny and Grand Warlocks. Only about 50-ish DPS. That's margin of error range. Increasing eye level on Balefire, Reign of Tyranny gains more value. Very close, but in the long run, Naimu and Baloros look to be your best combination overall. Pips is here, Pips and Ashes, the Grand Warlocks versus Immutable Hatred. I did not sim Pips and Balefire. It looked decent from what I'd seen. At the same time, I've seen some odd Clash Trinket sims with like Clash Trinket and Baloros being number one here. I think they're bugged. I'm not sure why. I'm not going to show them. I think they're bugged. If they're not, we figure it out. I'll make another video on it. But I would assume they're bugged because Clash Trinket and Baloros don't make much. It's probably fine, but it doesn't make a crazy amount of sense being ahead of this by 5k or whatever. It's like 160. I'm pretty sure it's bugged. But for the most part, you can count on Naimu and Baloros being your best probably combination of trinkets. If not, probably like Naimu. Typically probably like Naimu and Clash Trinket or Naimu Pips, something along those lines. But Naimu and Baloros, which you're probably going to hear over most of these sims. Spoilers ahead for trinkets. So let's look at AF stuff. Moving on to Affliction, we've played the Violate 2 Soul Eater's Gluttony build for the majority of PTR, and there's not a whole lot really to say for AF as far as sims are concerned. I did sim both VT and PS here. This Violate 2 Soul Eater's Gluttony build looking like this. Billy played for all of PTR pretty much in raid testing. Barring needing cleave elements and stuff like that. The Singularity build looked like this. We had a point in Singularity, only one in Gluttony and one in Visionary, being the next best choice in the bottom row here. And it's behind by about 4.5k DPS. I did sim like 6-minute sims, 5.5-minute sims, so I get, varying damage profiles for Dark Lair in there. Violate is better. Violate with double Gluttony gives you a 0.5 minute Soul Rot, which triggers your tier bonus. So tier bonus more often it's just better. If you're hoping for a PS tier like I was, I mean, from what I can see, it's not going to happen. But hey, I mean, at least we have a good sync on Violate and Soul Rot for, well, that being the case. I did run a sim here with Inevitable Demise also, just to show, like, this is the Violate sim. This sim here is playing one Pandemic Invocation and one Soul Swap to get to Withering Bolt like this. It's playing this and this, no ID. I took this exact build here, same trinkets and all that, and ran a sim with 2 points in ID, looking like this. It's still terrible. It's behind by about 2.5k DPS. We talked about it a bit, needing buffs, didn't get any where we live in. I don't know what to tell you, but ID, if you like it, is not good. And that is that. Now, Trinket sims for Affliction. So I expected Balefire branch to be decent here. It was decent for AF back in the day in BFA, but things have changed and all that a little bit. Trinket-wise, Similar to like demo stuff and all that. Belor and Naimu being the big dog trinkets here. Belor being the on-use damage-based trinket that does damage to yourself and everything else, which is, I'll just show it here briefly. Belor is this right here. And Naimu is this, if I can find it right there. Belor being the baseline intellect on use to damage to things around you, yourself, but you're slowed, and it does damage literally around your character. So if you're not in melee, it won't do damage to really anything, right? Or I guess you're not in melee of the mob you're attacking, however you want to word it, right? This one here being a damage-based effect, also giving you mastery, and it does more damage if your target is immobilized, which the staff does from the boss as well, but the staff is rare and does not work on bosses. So these sims will also run without the staff being in place. It is just baseline 9 damage. This trinket looks to be very good. Baseline intellect, a lot of damage. Looks, honestly, ends up being about 500,000 when you use it damage-wise, and a good bit of mastery for 18 seconds. Mastery, good for AF. All that, not too surprising. Outside of that, you've got pips here. Beloros pips. Clash trinket and Naimu not being terrible for AF. A little surprising, but at the same time, I mean, trinket's a bit odd this tier. Pips Balefire, and basically, Belor Balefire here. Not going to play Naimu and Balefire. That is, straight up double on use, so it wouldn't work too well. But overall, like Belor, Naimu being pretty solid. If you don't want to play, Belor, the melee trinket, and all that kind of stuff, Pips and Naimu. And to clarify, Pips is this right here. It is an equip-based trinket. It does damage, or it does give you stats. A normal, like, just stat-based trinket. Baseline intellect, you get mastery versus crit, and yeah, there's that. I will say that both Beloros and the 9 trinket are on use effects, but using one will incur a penalty on the other. But Beloros is basically just pop it, it's damage. There's no like stat amp with it, so it's basically just hit it whenever you can after your stat trinket is used for your main cooldowns, and that's that. So they are technically double on use, but honestly, like, it's not really. Just hit it, does damage, and that is that. So for the most part, AF looking like Vile Taint build. Once again, 2 Soldiers Gluttony. Vile Taint better than Singularity. ID still sucks. And trinket-wise, like Belor and Naimu, looking to be the best overall. And AF sitting at 141,747, playing that generic template, which is a few thousand DPS lower than Demo, which is about what I've seen for the most part when it comes to just in-game testing and all that, depending on trinkets and things. And yeah, so let's take a look at Destro. All right, so Destro. I have simmed a handful of different combinations here, talent-wise, all that. So this is 3 minute. 3 minute is non-Grand Warlock's design. 2 minute is playing Grand Warlock's design. The only real variance there, or I guess the difference between it is 3 minute build, 3 minute Infernal, has 2 points in Burn to Ashes, which looks like this. The 2 minute build goes like this. So one has more Incinerate damage, but a longer Infernal cooldown. The other has a 2 minute Infernal and less Incinerate damage. Really depends on the fight you're doing. If you want 2 minute Infernal profile versus just 3, in the end, 3 minute build sims a little higher, but not by a crazy amount. Now I've compared Conflagration of Chaos here to Soulfire Ruin, to CDF RDF. CDF is dead comparatively to these two, so there's that. Soulfire Ruin, 2 minute build, not too far behind the 3 minute Conflagration of Chaos build. Conflagration of Chaos looking like this, going through Shadowburn to get 2 Conflagration of Chaos points. This build here, Soulfire Ruin looking like this. Soulfire, Decimation, 2 points in Ruin, pulling a point out of Scalding Flames, comparatively to Conflagration of Chaos, and then, 2 or 3 minute build down here, depending what you want to do. Now, if you ask me, there are a handful of fights this tier where you can indeed use Shadowburn. Let me think. The second boss in the raid, I think it's Agira. Tindral, a few other fights here and there. I forgot the names of them, but there are some ads you can snipe with Shadowburn if you're playing Destro in that fight for whatever reason. Either way, a passive ability being Conflagration of Chaos versus casting a Soulfire and things with this much difference between the two. I'm gonna play Conflagration of Chaos even if this was ahead of this much by this much DPS. So Conflagration of Chaos looks to be the best. 3 minute build versus 2 minute build. There's all that. I did run Trinket Sims, with both them to show this right here is going to be, you can break it down here, the 2 minute build. Infernal is here, here, and here, basically. And this list right here is going to be the 3 minute build. You can see Infernal is here, and basically, well, this is an odd one, but either way, right about, let's pull up a different one here. Right there and right about there for your Infernal. So, I guess, well, give or take right about in there. Either way, this is 3 minute build versus 2 minute build. 2 minute build, honestly, both still pretty similar. Beloros, whatever it's called, and 9 trinkets. We talked about them already. they look to be the best combination for 2-minute build being here. Looking at 3-minute build, also the same 2-minute build. I mean, Balor 9-mute, Balor Pips, Balor Mirror, Balor Balefire, Balor and X. Balor is good for Destro. Baseline Intellect, pretty flat profile for Destro across the board. If you don't want to play it, you've got Pips here, like Pips 9-mute, Pips Mirror, Pips Balefire. So it really depends if you want to play a damage-based trinket you have to send the melee for, or if you just want to play, you know, a stat-based one with an on-use one. This is the 2-minute trinket sims. Now looking at 3 minutes, honestly, once again, the same. Balor 9-mute, Pips, Mirror, Balefire, and then Pips 9-mute, Pips, Balefire, all that, right? So honestly, not a whole lot of variance between them. Mirror being third highest here in 2-minute sim, being third highest, or I guess third highest here in 3-minute sim as well. Not as much disparity between them. Actually, about the same, give or take roughly. But both fine options. And technically, like while Balor is an on-use trinket, you hit the button and damage. Playing Balor with Pips is like basically essentially double equip, which if you think back to how Avarice was for Destro, pretty flat profile, barring Crush and Chaos being decent. You can see, like, you know, 9-mute doesn't plate that a little bit, but besides that, pretty flat profile, and that's what this would offer, barring just, you know, baseline Balor damage and, you know, Pips being a just straight up secondary stat proc and effect, right? So, TLDR, like AF, Balor 9-mute looking pretty solid. Overall damage-wise, I've got Destro sitting at 138.7, using my own gear, not fully, you know, optimizing trinkets, all that stuff yet. 138.7 comparatively to AF being 141.7, and Demonology being about 145.5. So, not as high, but at the same time, certain settings, fights like Council of Dreams, fights where you can get a lot of flashpoint value, maybe on fights like Tindraw possibly and things, or Tindraw, Laradar, I should say. Possible there's a bit more Destro value there than not, right? These Havoc-based settings could be pretty solid overall. But yeah, that's basically that. Destro, Demo, and AF. So overall, comparing them all, we're talking about Grand Warlocks 145.542, followed by Valentine, AF 141.732, Ring of Tyranny, Hatred 141, and then Destro being about here. And I will say once again, these are all just wearing the same exact gear for every sim here. It's Pips and Ashes. Didn't optimize trinkets between them all a million times. Wanted to have like one flat, just semi-generic, you know, gear build. Changing trinkets might, you know, like skew this one way or another towards Destro, Demo, AF, vice versa. But overall, from what I've seen in testing, this is about what it looks like. Demonology followed by AF, followed by Destro, but in the end, they're all not too far apart. And different fights in the raid want different profiles. So there's that. You might play Destro in a fight, even though it's the worst overall damage-wise. Now, I did run some racial sims here also, looking at Destro, Demo, and AF. I didn't run every race. I ran the ones that are typically better than others for that specific spec. Demonology here, playing Grand Warlocks designed Immutable Hatred. I am playing Troll currently, but you can see Orc is back ahead by about 800 DPS. I mean, minute build being 2-minute build, with a Grimoire every 2 and Grand Warlocks design. It makes sense. Orc could be better. More pet damage, Dwarf, Troll, Human. For Affliction, we've got Human, Troll, Gnome, Orc, Dwarf. I'm a little surprised here, to be fair. I thought Orc could be higher with Dark Lair being 2 minutes and all that, but it's possible haste is just more relevant, like during your Dark Lair and things anyways, and you're CDing so often, like Dark Lair itself is so irrelevant damage-wise that it might just be Troll either way with main CDs with lust and everything on pole, but either way, looking to be similar to where we are now, give or take. And then Destro, we have 2-minute build here and 3-minute build. So 2-minute build, we're looking at Dwarf, Human, Mecha, Gnome, Orc, and Troll, favoring Orc by about 50-ish DPS. Going to 3-minute build here, the same for the most part, Dwarf, Mecha, Gnome, Human, Gnome, Troll, pulling ahead of Orc by about 200 DPS, because of, once again, you know, 3-minute Infernal versus 2-minute Infernal. Human and Mecha, Gnome trade back and forth. I mean, it's about one and the same, give or take. If you want to run sims or other races, you can do it very easily as well. I didn't run them all. It would take forever. But these are the races that typically end up being better options. Typically, it's like Troll or Orc if you're Alliance. It's like typically Human or Gnome. At times, Dwarf if you're doing, like, you know, Mythic Plus stuff. But, yeah, that's that. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully any questions you had about Warlock Sims and all that heading into patch 10.2 in, you know, its current form was hopefully answered in this video. Trinket-wise, I'm surprised that Balor is that high. 9-mute has actually been pretty good for most of testing. I didn't really play it a whole lot in actual raid testing, but the mastery effect is big. If you get the staff and can use the in cap or whatever the effect is, it's even better. And like the damage is big, the mastery effect's big, and it's just solid trinket all around. We'll see where it goes below if you want to stand in melee with it or not. If not, pips is fine. A couple other random equip ones. Once again, I didn't sim Caesar, whatever it is from Throw the Tides, or Genosaur Blood from Everbloom. If they're worthwhile, we'll talk about it later on. But I mean, I didn't send them really outside of like quick sims where they were pretty So yeah. If you guys want to see the sims, I'll have a link to it down below in the description. At the same time, if you want any week or add-ons, I use Twitch and Discord links will also be down there. If you want to snag any of those. Before I end the video, also like always, want to give a big shout out to my patrons for all support on Patreon, guys. Thank you a million times. Like always, I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the description. And once again, the Tier 3 Fellow Guard rank or higher of Patreon does indeed get early access to the 10.2 Warlock spreadsheet, which is, now up on Patreon. So I am also half expecting some tuning, maybe even tomorrow, I guess today, whenever you're watching this, before raid testing, if not possibly next week. It is indeed release candidate for PTR, but there's been a lot of tuning in the past few PTR cycles, 10.1, 10.0, I think even like 9.2, whatever Sepulchre was, after they marked the PTR's release. So we'll see where it goes. Wouldn't mind some Destro and AF buffs, because I mean, while Demo looks good, and it's a better version of Demo, I guess, in a sense, with Grand Warlocks, it feels better to play. I wouldn't mind it being an AF Destro tier either. Let's throw them some love. So, all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.